Okay, Ashish, maybe we can start.
Okay, hi. Welcome, folks. But today's topic is on process and strategy. So let me just first give a quick background before we go to the presentation. And I would also like to spend a minute or two towards the end in case we have time to talk about the assignment that I had posted. If there are any questions on that. So, but before that, let's start with today's course. So, this is a course on digital transformation. And as we have been saying, digital transformation is about more than about just technology. So attributes or characteristics that contribute to I'm talking about what I want to say today, the characteristics that contribute to the success of any venture are known as its success factors. I don't know if you have come across this term before or not, but this is a very commonly used term in your careers and profession and corporate circles. So they are called success factors, and it's important to know what's the success factors. For example, like being hardworking and good at mathematics are success factors for getting into IIT. Okay, unless you have that, you can't get into IIT. So they and your ability at maths or maybe physics or whatever determines whether you have what it takes to be successful in IIT or not. So those are success factors. So similarly, there are success factors of digital transformation. So what are some of the main success factors of digital transformation? I'm putting up the slide now. Okay, so just one second. I think it is an animated slide. So okay, so I'll 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 skip the animation and put the whole slide. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, so similarly, as I said, there are success factors for digital transformation. And what are some of the success factors? These what I'm saying showing here are six of the major success factors which are common to every digital transformation. Digital technology, uh, the culture or the mindset and skills, the alignment between business and technology. If you ask me, this is perhaps the most important and most often ignored one. The customer experience management, innovation, we all know about that, and finally the digital strategy and process. So in this course, our goal is to familiarize you with each of those success factors, and not today, of course, throughout this course. Some of these we have already covered. For example, if you look at digital technology, we have talked about ICT, we have talked about Moore's law, internet, data communication, SMAC, which is the social media and mobility and analytics and cloud technologies, IoT, software tools, and perhaps over the remaining classes, we'll be talking about more aspects of this particular success factor called digital technology. Similarly, for the other success factors, we have already covered some of these in our classes till now. And the important thing here is that while the digital transformation journey is never the same for different organizations, the critical success factors are the same. That means, irrespective of the type of digital transformation you are planning or have goal for, you will still need to work on these success factors only. There may be more success factors, but in my experience, I've found that these are the most critical success factors. And organizations that are able to, how shall I say, harness or overcome these to their advantage become successful. You have to keep all these success factors in mind, not any one of them. Like most of the people keep only technology in mind when they think of digital transformation, but as we can see here, there are others. When you have time and leisure, you can look at the other smaller final print of this slide. I'm not going to go through everything in the interest of time. This is just a sort of a recap. I'm not yet come to today's topic, which is digital strategy and process. That is one of the success factors of digital transformation, and that is what today we shall be discussing some of the key aspects of the strategy and process that are key to digital transformation. And by the way, the strategy and process terms existed much before digital transformation came about. Okay, so the concepts are the same, but they relate in a different way to the digital world. But strategy and process are not something that are terms that are introduced by digital age. They have always existed for a long time, at least as far back as I know. They have always been there. So today, as I said, so we'll be talking about this strategy and process as part of digital transformation. So one of the things that just wanted to share, see, just business management or financial management and personal management have been professional disciplines. You have all heard about that. You may have friends or other people that you know who have either studied or are working on business management or personal management, also known as HR, or financial management. Okay, these have been professional disciplines for a long time, but now in the present era, technology management is also becoming just as important. And technology management is what? It deals with making effective, it does not deal with necessarily going into the nuts and bolts and understanding each technology at its depth. Technology management deals with making effective use of technology for business benefit. Okay, so there's a difference. Technology management is about making effective use of technology. So that is, technology management recognizes both business and technology as equal participants in assuring the growth of the enterprise in this age, in the digital world. So earlier only management or business used to be the critical factor in ensuring growth. Now it is technology and business both. That is the critical change brought about by technology management, of which digital transformation is a part. So as I said, business and technology are merged. This is important. In fact, I would request you to please appreciate this. And even though it sounds simple, but it is important. So business and technology are merging into one. We have been repeatedly saying that, perhaps in every class. So what used to be a business concept, okay, what used to be earlier in my time or in Dr. Ravi Mittal's time, what used to be defined as purely business concept is now becoming a technical concept, and vice versa. For example, cloud technology, you can't say it is technical or business, it is both. Or similarly, strategy and process also, they are now no longer just concerned with business, they are equally relevant from a technology standpoint. So strictly speaking, strategy and process are business subjects, but in light of technology and business fast becoming sort of indistinguishable from each other, they are equally relevant for technology students like yourselves. So in the early part of your career, your focus may not be on. So some of you may be thinking, "Hey, why is this important? I'm doing BTech from IIT, so why is I'm not going to be writing strategies or processes?" Yes, probably not in the beginning. So in the early part of your career, your focus may not be on developing strategies and new processes, but you will certainly be required to implement them. And let me share something from my experience, and I'm sure a lot of people who have spent over 3 decades in the industry would relate to this, that in most companies, a lot of people are unable to relate their job functions to the larger picture or the larger strategic goals of the organizations. So these are the people who feel unempowered and directionless. When you talk to them, there is only one thing they will talk about. Hey, are there jobs available in so and so company? Can I give you my CV? Can you pass it on to so and so? Because they're not happy in their current roles. It is not because their salary is less or they're not they're having problems with your boss, but they're not able to find a group for themselves in the company. Okay. In fact, I'll give you a story. Some of you may have read it, but I would not think that many of you would have read it. There was a very famous book by a person called Stephen Covey called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. There was a little story there. Listen carefully to this. I hope I remember it right. So there was a guy who was walking down the road and he saw a lot of people in groups who were crushing stone. They were having big hammers in their hand and they were crushing stone. So he stopped in front of the first 2 3 people who were doing that and asked them, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" So they started complaining and cribbing, "Hey, I don't know what we are doing. Our boss just asked us to come here at 9 o'clock every morning, and then all day it is so hot here, and we are just hammering these stones, and the boss is never happy, and we don't even get any breaks, and all sorts of complaints. This is hard work, back-breaking work, all these kind of complaints." They were very unhappy, and they sounded like somehow, how can I get this over with? That was that kind of attitude. So this guy listened to it, and then he walked ahead. Then when he came to the next set of people who were doing the same job, exactly the same, they also had a hammer in hand, they were also crushing stones. So he asked them, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" So the guy came forward and said, "Look, we are part of a team that is building a cathedral. And that cathedral is going to be the biggest cathedral in the country." So look at the perspective. One team was cribbing because they didn't understand what they were doing and why they were doing. Whereas the other team, which was doing the same thing, they were happy doing it because they could relate it to what the eventual goal was. And they were excited and inspired by that goal. So this is an important lesson. In fact, I expect that whatever future path you take, you will always see yourself as cathedral builders rather than as stone crushers. Okay, so always remember this, that when you are doing something, it is whether you are writing a software code or doing software testing or writing contracts or managing business or doing sales or whatever function you go into, think of it in the larger picture, larger sense. What does it mean? Where is the cathedral that you are part of? Okay, so that is important. And for that, it is important to understand the meaning and importance of the organization's strategy and how it relates to you. I hope the importance why we are talking about strategy is clear to you, that it is important. A lot of people, as I said, don't have a clear knowledge about strategy. Let us begin with a term called digital vision. I will be talking about probably 4 or 5 different terms which may sound very similar, but they have slight differences in their meanings, and it would be good if you can appreciate that. Let's start with vision. So the process of digital transformation begins with a clear vision that is shared by everyone in the organization. The key word here is everyone. It is not that if we have an organization of 200 people, the CEO has a vision and the rest of the 199 people don't share that vision. It has to be shared by everyone. Okay, it is based on the simple principle that the power of an idea, and because a vision is nothing but an idea, the power of an idea multiplies as more and more people rally behind it. One person having an idea and being convinced about it versus 10 people versus 100 people versus, let's say there's a big company with 10,000 people and all 10,000 people are committed and inspired and enthusiastic about meeting a vision. Imagine the force, okay, in that organization. Everybody wants to do this to achieve a big vision. Okay, so in fact, if you see the definition here, it states that the vision defines the optimal desired future state. Don't be confused by the terms. They will make sense, I can assure you. That is a mental picture of what an organization wishes to be known for over time. In fact, quoting the same Stephen Covey that I referred to earlier, he defines vision as the ability to see with your mind what you cannot yet see with your eyes. Okay, that is what is a vision, that you cannot yet see it. What is over the mountain, on the other side of it, where you want to go. Okay, it's essential to understand the meaning of vision, because irrespective of your role or function or level, I said this before and I'm saying it again, irrespective of your role or function or level, you are a participant in the achievement of the enterprise vision. You have to relate to the vision of the company. And if you understand your connection to it, you are far more likely to succeed. Now, let me just try to think of some few. If we were having a face-to-face class, I would have you could have done this interactively, and that would have been much more effective. But here we can do it on our own. So what is a vision? Some examples of a vision. For example, a vision could be that we will be market leaders in our product category by 2025. That's a vision, a simple vision. Or suppose it's a company that makes smartphones or networks. So its vision could be there will be 5 billion connected devices on our network in the next 4 years. Or a vision need not define only your business goal. It can define a sort of a social goal also. For example, you can say that our company will be on the cover of Forbes magazine in the March 2023 issue as the world leader in, say, customer value creation. Okay, that's a vision. Now, vision doesn't say what you are going to do. It doesn't say anywhere. It just say who you want to become. Okay, so let us look at the vision of some famous companies I have included here. For example, Microsoft. Microsoft had a vision of a computer on every desk, and this vision they had found way back in 1990. Okay, today you see, I mean, of course, there is now Apple and iOS also, but most of the computers in the world still, and there was a point when almost every computer, every desk in the world, every home in the world ran a Microsoft computer or a Microsoft software. Not computer, when I say computer, I don't mean the hardware, but I mean the platform, that is the operating system, Microsoft Windows. Okay, so that was that vision, and that is the vision that inspired everybody in Microsoft. That Microsoft, like Bill Gates is saying here, Microsoft was founded with a vision of a computer on every desk and in every home. We have never wavered from the vision, from that vision. Similarly, look at Intel, another very successful company. What is their vision? If it is smart and connected, it's best with Intel. That means any computer or smartphone or any device that belongs to the ICT ecosystem, okay, that will have Intel at its center. It is best with Intel. So, and the great thing is that these companies have not just created a vision and written down on a blackboard somewhere. They have lived up to it. They have achieved it. If you look at Amazon, what is it? Their mission, you can find all this on Google also, by the way, though I don't recommend that you go by Google. But our mission is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. So these are the companies that have created a vision and have lived up to the vision. So incidentally, in fact, coming to you, very soon, I do not know the composition of the class as to which semester or year most of you are from, but I would expect that at some point soon, you will also be joining certain organizations and taking your first steps towards your professional life. So my advice would be this, that when you consider joining an organization, the first thing you should find out about that organization or ask them during the interview is what their vision is. Okay, if that vision excites you, you can be quite sure that you're joining the right organization. Remember that you must relate to the vision of that company which you are going to join, which you are going to trust your future, your education and your success to. So you must relate to the vision of the company. If you do not relate to the vision of the company, I would say don't join that company. A vision is not, and let me say it in another way, a vision is not something that answers the question, what are we going to do? Please remember this. A vision never answers the question. None of these visions, for example, if you see here, they answer the question, what are we going to do? Rather, a vision answers the question, who do we intend to become? There's a big difference. What are we going to do versus who do we intend to become? These are certain lessons I have been able to learn over a long career in the corporate world, and I hope that you will benefit from this. So a vision ultimately leads to the organization's digital strategy. Without a vision, you cannot have an effective digital strategy because it will not be a strategy for the long term. Okay, it will just be a short term kind of a tactical kind of a thing, which does answer the question, what are we going to do? So that means if you want the answer to the question, what are we going to do? You must look at the strategy of the company. If you want to answer the question, who are we going to be eventually? It may be 2 years later, 5 years later, or 10 years later. Who are we going to be? That is the vision of the company. So I'm moving to the next slide. I hope this is clear. Now, next slide, we will be discussing some of the definitions of terms that are important and will remain important for you in the future. So some of the points I'm stressing may seem very obvious, but I'm still stressing them here because they are commonly ignored as the people are focused on the urgent. You must have heard this, that the difference between the urgent and the important. So right now we have the luxury of focusing on the important, so I'm talking about this. So what constitutes an organization's strategy? This is an important question. Of course, you have come across the term strategy often, and I'm sure you have a general idea of what it is. But specifically, what does it mean from a business perspective, especially businesses in the digital age, as we are? So, and here, let me again caution you. This is please, because this is a mistake I have seen people. By the way, if you Google the term digital strategy, you will most probably get results about SEO. You understand what is SEO? SEO is search engine optimization, which means that you pay the company some money and they will ensure that when your company is searched for, it will appear on the first page of Google. Okay, because hardly anybody goes to the second, third, and fourth and fifth pages. So companies pay a lot of money to appear on the first page so that they get hits. Or content management or PPC. PPC means pay per clicks. That they will throw an ad at you, and if you click, you pay the company based on a number of clicks. Okay, or email marketing, social media advertising. These are not strategies at all. This is not what I mean here by digital strategy. And I'm saying this because most of the time when you go and look up the word digital strategy, this is what you will be told. These are not strategy. Let me state here that this is not what we mean by digital strategy. It is very misleading, I would say. So these terms denote tactics for reaching out to potential customers and at best can be described as, say, online marketing techniques, but that is not strategy. So be careful. That is why I said last time also when I talked about the assignment, that try not to Google the answer, because I'm not saying Google will not give the answers or that Google answers are wrong. That's not what I mean, but the context may be different. The context that we are talking about here is different, and whereas the context in which Google is answering the question, and this strategy is a good example of that. So this is the reason that I asked you not to look up Google. You of course can to get sufficient data and information, but don't be surprised if you get different answers in Google because the context may be different. So from a perspective of what we are discussing, and which you should be very clear. So what is strategy if it is not about the what Google describes as that? So from our perspective, strategy is a collective term for several practices which flow from the mission of the company. Okay, I will explain that. It may not mean much. I have just noted down these definitions. I just read it out from that. Strategy is a collective term for several practices which flow from the mission of the company. So what is the mission? We have not introduced this term before, so let us describe. We have talked about vision, we have talked about strategy, we have talked about mission. In fact, we have not even talked much about what we mean by strategy. We have talked about what we mean by vision, but we have not talked about mission. So a mission is simply the purpose for which the organization exists. You can be a software company, you can be a bank, you can be a whatever else you are, or you can be a airline company or a travel company or a insurance company. So a mission is related to the work that you do or the purpose for which you exist. So it is the purpose for which the organization exists. So it answers the question, why do we exist? So why do we exist is the mission of the company. For example, the mission of an engineering institute, perhaps like yours or any other engineering institute, could be to impart world-class education towards creating a future-ready workforce. That's a very valid mission statement, which engineering college can have. Okay, to impart world-class education towards creating a future-ready workforce. Or a business organization can have a vision like that our vision is to create value for shareholders by building advanced security solutions, let us say. Okay, so that is the mission. Mission is the purpose for which the organization exists. Why do we exist? We exist to meet our we exist for our mission. Okay, the questions indicated here. So what I have done is I have taken all the terms that are related to strategy and I put a question on the left. Which question is answered by that term? And it's easy to remember what each thing means if you use the questions as a guideline. Okay, the mission and vision are both defined. Then we come to the vision. Who do we intend to be? As I already talked about, who do we intend to be in over time? That is the vision of the company. So we have talked about the mission and vision, and I hope it is at a broad level, it is clear to you. Now, it is important that the mission and vision are defined at the larger company level. For example, if you take a company like, say, Infosys, or any other large company like General Electric or Nokia or Microsoft or some such company, okay, they would have a mission and vision that is the same for the entire organization. Now, each organization has functions. Functions could be technology function, business function, finance function, HR function, supply chain function, personal management. There are many functions, product management. These are all different functions. Now, each function may have a different strategy, but they would be guided by the same mission and vision. That is why I've written that the mission and vision of the company are at a company level. In fact, let me give an example. In a war, the mission of every unit, there are different functions, though in the war they are, I think, called units. Like there is ordnance, there is artillery, there is engineers, there is signals. So but the mission of all the units is to enable the front line, which is the infantry, okay, to conquer or defend enemy territory. I think everybody understands when there's a war, the mission of the army is to conquer or defend enemy territory. Now imagine if the army had different missions for each of its units. So I think the all strategies that were not aligned to the overall mission, which was to defend and to capture enemy territory or to defend your own territory, even the most powerful army in the world would be trounced or defeated if its different unit pulled the army in different directions. It is similar in an organization. That is why it is important to have one mission and functional strategies that are aligned to this mission. So please always remember that. What must we achieve are the strategic goals which are specific to a function. Like if you go to a technology function or the development function or the software testing function or whatever, you may have to achieve different things in order to achieve the mission of the or vision of the company. But that is what is your strategic goals. So an organization is not expected to frequently deviate from its mission or vision, but the strategic goals can change periodically. Often they change every year. Okay, most organizations do not review their mission and vision once they are created, but however there is no strict rule. You can, for example, when a company undergoes digital transformation, it can review its mission and vision and it can change it, though it is not necessary to change it. For example, if the vision of a cement manufacturer, let us say, is to achieve global dominance by producing high grade cement or high grade cement that stands out for toughness, okay, it remains its vision even as it goes through digital transformation. It will still create high grade cement that stands out for toughness, right? Okay, new ideas may contribute to realizing the vision in innovative ways. You can use a lot of innovation to achieve the vision, but the vision may not change, or it so not necessary for the vision to change often. So as I already said, the mission which is more unchanging is the basis for the strategic goals which are at a function level. uh, so the objective now next comes to the next part, which is objective. Now for each function, now you may have a strategic goal. For example, the a strategic goal, for example, to say increase customer satisfaction. That is a strategic goal, but it doesn't say by how much you increase it or what you do to increase it, or it just say increase customer satisfaction. That's a strategic goal. Okay, so but when you say that achieve a customer survey feedback score of, let's say, 4.5 on a base of a minimum 1000 customers, it becomes an objective. So when a strategic goals becomes measurable, it becomes an objective. So that's the difference between goals and objectives. A lot of times people ask, even in interviews, what's the difference between a goal and an objective? So a goal is abstract, it tells you what to do, but an objective has a measurable uh, has a measurability to it. Okay, and as I said, the goals and objectives are specific to a function, not at an entire organization level, but they are specific to each function within the organization. Finally, from the objectives, you derive what is known as the KRAs. Okay, one second. What are the planned results and actions? Those are known as the key result areas, or the KRAs of the company. So these KRAs, the difference here is that KRAs are at an individual level. For example, when you join an organization tomorrow, you will be given by your boss, maybe after 2 months, 3 months, or whatever time, a set of KRAs that next year you will be measured on whether you have achieved these key result areas or not. And if you have achieved, you may probably get a good rating or a promotion. And if not, then you may not get it. I mean, it is simple as that. So KRAs are at an individual level. So we have seen what is at a company level, function level, and individual level. Okay, and finally, we have what is called the key performance indicators, or the how do you measure success. The last item here, that is the key performance indicators, or KPIs, which are the report cards of progress against each KRA and objectives. KPIs can be individual, KPIs can be at a function level, or KPIs can be at a company level. As I said, KPI is like a report card. How have you been doing against the objective? KPIs you keep checking periodically, and if you have to make any corrections or course corrections, as they're called, you can make it on the basis of KPIs. So this entire flow from mission to KPIs is generally a well-structured one in most of the professionally run organizations. Taken together, it constitutes the strategy of the company. This is what you mean by a strategy. You have a mission, vision, broken up into strategic goals, translated into objectives, given as goals and measurable KRAs to individuals, and finally a set of KPI. All this constitutes. And now just imagine how different it is from defining strategy as doing email marketing campaigns. That's not what is the strategy. Strategy is this, what we are showing here at an organization or an enterprise level, or relevant from a digital transformation perspective. This is what is strategy. Another important thing about strategy, before we move on, is the people, or the skills and the processes, or the tools and the technology, which, like for example, SMAC, the cloud and the mobility, etc., are decided by the strategy of the company, not the other way around. It's not that you have a set of people or skills, so you will create this strategy. No, you first create a strategy. And in order to serve that strategy, what are the type of people you require? What are the processes you require? And what is the technology you need? You decide that it works in this direction, not in the reverse. Okay, that is another thing that you have to be careful about. So now let's talk about process. So I hope that you have now some idea of what we mean when we say strategy. Now I can okay. So let's talk about a process for next few minutes. I know most of you know what's a process, but still I'm repeating some of the things for the benefit of everybody. Even if there are one or two people who do not know it, I think it is my duty to make sure that everyone understands it. So bear with me if you find this a repetition. So we all have more than a fair idea of what a process means. Some of you would have studied control systems, for example. I remember, at least in my time when I was doing engineering, control systems used to be a very critical subject, which used to talk about the entire process. Okay, so or there may be other subjects where you get a very clear idea of what a process means and how it works. So, but still, I'm repeating here, as stated here. If you see in the red, a business process is a collection of related structured activities or tasks. Don't be confused by the definition; they are not difficult. Okay, related structured activities or tasks by people or equipment. People can perform them, or they can be automated. In which a specific sequence produces a specific sequence is known as a flow or a workflow. Produces a service or product for a particular customer or customers. This is a very textbook kind of a definition, but it is not difficult. If you look at the keyword, for example, by related, we mean that there is interdependence between the tasks, which means the outcome of one task may have impact on another task. In the last class, we spoke about behavioral outcome and technical outcome, etc. Those can all be part of the way the processes are also defined. Okay, when we talk about structured activities, what we mean is that they are not ad hoc and they are repeatable. They are created by design. Okay, so while each process may differ from another, all processes have an input, as it is shown. They have a output and a feedback mechanism, and what is in the center is the process. So digital businesses also follow this rule. Okay, we will come back to this in a moment about this input, output, feedback part of it. But let's look at digital processes or enterprise processes. Enterprise processes, I mean by enterprise, as we said, we mean the corporate or the company. So the enterprise processes are grouped into clusters. I'm not going to talk about all the clusters, so uh, don't be alarmed. I'm not going to talk about all these clusters because many of them would not be relevant for you. I'll only be talking about what is relevant. So the functional and the organization processes, the top two boxes, are internal to the organization. If there is time, I can go into that, but for now, I won't. Okay, are internal to the organization, and we shall not be discussing these here. Our focus will be on business processes. Now, we have shown a process type called instinctual connect. Let me talk about that first. Instinctual connect, which may come as a new term to many of you. You may have heard of the term business process. I'm sure all of you have. But perhaps the term instinctual connect may be a new term for you. Now, this is among the most important process constituents in a digital transformation. So it is important to know what's instinctual connect. Typically, a process is guided by a set of, you know, that rules and policies, right? The process is nothing but templates and rules and policies and forms, etc. The older organizations, as we term them, analog organizations or legacy organizations, whatever we call them, older organizations were very rigid about these processes. In fact, many government organizations still are. For example, if you have to get a driving license or a passport, the process is very rigid and inflexible, and you have to adhere to it exactly, or you'll be rejected. Okay, it is not at all open to user inputs, nor is it user friendly. They don't care about all that. So that's what is known as a rigid process. Unfortunately, digital companies cannot afford that. This approach does not work for digital companies or digital enterprises, and therefore this approach cannot be followed in digital transformation. While processes are important in digital companies also, rigidity and inflexibility go against the very definition of digital processes. Always remember that. Okay, so therefore, to bring in the much needed what customers expect from you, the flexibility, a critical process element called instinctual connect is introduced. It is derived from the word instinct, and you all know what instinct means, right? Instinct means your senses, and allows for the much needed flexibility to apply common sense. Okay, when processes are becoming a bottleneck, you cannot be so in a competitive world of digital business, you cannot be weighed down by rigid processes. So therefore you have this instinctual connect. So instinctual connect does not mean that processes can be ignored completely, but it gives the freedom to add value over and above the defined process. I'm sorry if many of you are finding these concepts very business oriented or management oriented, but trust me, they are not. They are what you will be required to work with all your life. Okay. This instinctual connect basically means the freedom to add value over and above the defined process. For example, if you are ordering flowers online, typically, let's say for your partner or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever let's say you want to send flowers. Okay, you typically send flowers online when you cannot be there in person. So let's say the online flower company recognizes that you are sending flowers because can't be there in person. So it adds a small card called "Wish I could be there with you in person." Okay, now that's a value. And in fact, it had happened with me when I had missed a wedding anniversary a long time ago because of a business conference. So I had ordered flowers to be sent to my wife, and these guys had added this line, which it had not frankly occurred to me to say that. But these guys put there, and I still remember it. Maybe it was 15 years ago. Okay, but whereas if I had ordinarily ordered the flowers and nothing extra, they had taken money and delivered flowers, I would have forgotten about it. I would not be talking about it today, 15 years later. So that was an instinctual connect, that they recognized that the two people cannot be together, so they are to send flowers online. So let me put this card. Now, he's not bypassing the process in any way. He's just adding value further. Or it could be a personalized offer like a loyalty program that recognizes the long-term value of a customer and therefore gives some special service to the customer. Or it could be meeting an exceptional customer request not sanctioned in the process. Like, for example, somebody is having a transcontinental flight of 14 hours non-stop from Chicago, let's say, to Mumbai. Okay, and then he wants to check in into a hotel. The hotel recognizes that, look, this guy has been in a plane for the last 14 or 16 hours. So let me give him priority in the check-in instead of making him wait for 20 minutes. So those things are small things, but they add value, and customers remember you for that. Okay, so it is the instinctual connect, basically over and above the processes, that enhances the customer experience, which is what is at the, we'll talk about it in a future class. Customer experience for digital companies, not processes by themselves. Processes everybody has, but it is the instinctual connect which differentiates. So in short, then, instinctual connect is the subtle value addition that is not documented. There is no template for it, and unlike most processes, it does not have a set of policies or rules that must be adhered to. In fact, as I had written in my book, the term that I had used was that Instinctual connect is the lubrication required to run the process machinery. Okay, like every machinery requires lubrication. Similarly, for the process machinery, especially in digital enterprises, instinctual connect is the lubrication. And it's critical for digital enterprises to stay competitive. Now we come to an important part. I will try to cover this quickly, though this is an important thing. Don't if you don't understand that particular term, don't be upset about it. It'll all come back together. So business processes are the most critical part of a digital enterprise. You will agree with me in a couple of minutes from now or a few minutes from now. They are the only element of the enterprise that is visible to its customers and therefore are vital for its survival, and equally important is survival for its reputation. Okay, if you have bad business processes which the customers see, you will be out of the market. So given their criticality to the survival of the business, there is careful planning involved. They are not ad hoc. So there is careful planning involved in the way business processes are designed, executed, and optimized. Optimized means changed because of the variation in the environment. So most companies start out, in fact, that is what is the biggest problem today, if I see in digital enterprises or any enterprises for that matter, that most companies start out with a brilliant set of processes, but many of these get overtaken in time because of shifting customer expectations and experiences. Because the customer's experiences are not constant, whereas your process is constant. So they will not work together for a long time. So you have to keep your processes changing in accordance with changes in the market, which includes customer expectations. So that is what the business process cycle is about. So as is clear from this little diagram, the processes are designed to stay tuned to the needs of the customer, and I will see how through continuous market research. If you see the first icon, it is about using tools as well as direct interaction. So there has to be market research based on the market data. There are dynamic models, which is the process modeling part. I have written the definitions also if it is not clear. Dynamic models are created to assess the impact of the process on other aspects of the organization, like cost or complexity or return on investment. So you have to create a model or a prototype of the process. How is it going to work? How is it going to impact my other things? It is too costly. Is it too complex? Is it going to give me a benefit? So all that comes out when you create a model of the process. So once modeled, the sequence of event, what should be first step, second step, third step. We will see this in the next slide, how it actually works. In probably we'll take a simple example. The process must go through is decided in the workflow planning stage. Okay, and by business and technology teams working together. Okay, and they have to keep in mind the time, cost, and quality aspect, that what it should be the best workflow design which will result in the timely delivery of the process, because a process is not relevant at all if it is late, if you are late to the market. You have to be early to the market, preferably first to the market, in order for your process to succeed, however good the process is. This part is known as planning, where you decide on the sequence in which the operations must be run. And finally, based on the workflow, once the workflow plan has been designed, the workflow, it is then translated into a high level design. Some of you who are into software development would understand the concept of high level design for developing the process using agile software development methodology, or iterative development, as it says here. So once the process has been developed and tested, I'm just reading out from the slide only, so nothing new. Once developed and tested, the process, along with its, of course, the associated data, is hosted on the cloud and made accessible to the users. In parallel, there's another activity going on, which is known as the data mining and collection, which means to discover patterns from the usage of the data, how the process is being used. Okay, the data analytics team basically mine the data gathered on the usage of the process to discover trends on behavior patterns, or how satisfied people are with the service or product, etc. So these trends are very important. Okay, these trends are then combined, as we can see here, that these trends are also going into the same box as the market research. So they are combined with the market generated data on competition, regulation, new markets, etc., which is discovered through market research, to create fresh process models. The process model has to undergo a change, and the process is repeated. So this is a continuous thing. It is not a one-time thing. Thus, the business process cycle runs almost like a how shall I say, a production line in a digital organizations, and therefore forms a critical part of digital transformation. This is at the heart of the enterprise, or enterprise digital transformation. The output of the digital process cycle is what? The output is the intuitive and innovative business processes which are fashioned by using the latest technology. Okay, you see in this diagram, technology is also there, the cloud and SMAC and data analytics and iterative development and agile, and the business part is also there. So this is where the confluence happens between business and technology. So it is clear here from that the digital business process cycle, that it would be a mistake to take your role in a digital organization as a pure technology role or a pure business role. Unless both are focused on, success cannot be assured. I hope this is clear, because this is a very key concept in digital transformation. And I'm trying my best. I have worked for the last 2 days on this presentation in trying to make it as simple as possible for everyone to understand. Because if this is not clear, then, and I want to make it also not clear today, but I want to present it in a way that you remember it always. Okay, now we come to an important diagram. That this is the simplest part of the thing. You'll enjoy this hopefully. So let us turn to business process. Look at the left side of the diagram for now. Don't look at the right side of the slide. Let us turn to the business processes that are at the heart of the digital enterprises. Okay, I've taken a simple business. Now, business processes are, I think we already mentioned that, they are a collection of procedures, or I should say methods and procedures that are designed to serve the customer. That's what is the business process. We didn't talk, if you remember from the past diagram where we presented functional and organizational processes, because they are not focused on the customer. They're focused on the internal or employees or the internal aspects of the company. But business processes are focused on the customer. They are what the customer sees. So again, let me repeat this. Business processes are the collection of methods and procedures designed to serve the customer. It can be somebody else also than another primary stakeholder, like a partner or a regulator or a shareholder or anything, but primarily let us say customer is the most important constituent as far as a business process is concerned. So in a digital enterprise, a business process is a rule-based automated workflow that is designed to serve the needs of the customer of the digital enterprise. And that is why I've shown this diagram at the left. But let me give you some familiar examples. Like, for example, Uber cab booking process. I'm sure all of you have used that, or IRCTC rail ticket booking process, okay, or mobile banking, or Make My Trip, or so. There's so many common processes that we all use. They are all examples of business processes. They're all examples of business processes. They are nothing else. They are business processes. Okay, a key requirement of digital transformation is, we used the term digitalize 2-3 classes ago. That means converting it into a software, running a software to implement something. So a key requirement of digital transformation is to digitalize its business processes. You do not have manual business processes in digital organizations. Okay, the biggest risk. Now, here's the risk. This is what maybe some of you have thought of it already, but let me also still state it. The biggest risk with business processes is that, however elegant it is, you may make the best business process in the world. If I am your competitor today and I see that business process, I can copy it, because I also know how to write software and I can replicate it. So your competitive edge is gone. Okay, because you thought you came up with a great idea and you implemented a nice business process which was giving you a lot of profits. Suddenly somebody else is also doing the same, because he has been able to copy and write. Maybe he will use some additional features which are even better than your process. So that is always a risk. So that however elegant a business process is, it may be replicated by others, and this may blunt their competitive edge. Therefore, their constant sharpening is essential to stay ahead. You cannot create a business process and forget about it. You have to keep it current. That is, so for example, on the left, in this simple example, I'll just repeat it, though it must be clear. If you read it, it is very simple to understand, but I'll still read it because it may not be visible to everybody. In this simple example, we have a workflow for a business process of a what shall I call it, a sporting goods aggregator. Okay, a customer, let's say, orders let's say a little girl is there and she orders a tennis racket and a tennis ball. She's asked to register. If she's already not registered, that is what the flow is about. Choose the items, what does she want to buy. She will be given a lot of options, and then check out and pay. That is typically what the customer sees. Okay, now thereafter the backend takes over, which we don't see as customers, where the task of decomposing the order. Decomposing means, if the order consists of 3-4 items which may each be coming from a different vendor, decompose it and read and direct it to the concerned vendor. Okay, so backend task of decomposing the order happens when there are many different vendors involved. So for example, in this case, the racket and ball may have different vendors. Then dispatch the item, okay, and update the inventory. Meanwhile, during the payment, if you have a failure of the payment, then it updates your history log that, okay, their payment history may not be very good, and in order to get more points and better reviews. So you must have a good history log, etc. All that happened. But this is a typical process. I mean, all of us are familiar with it. Now, the important thing, which is why I presented this, I know that you are all very comfortable, or it's simple to understand. It doesn't require any explanation. But what I wanted to mention here, and the reason I showed it, is that every box, there are many boxes, decision boxes or action boxes, that every box in this process example here goes through the entire business cycle continuously. Entire business cycle means that every box goes through this entire cycle. Okay, not the process as a whole. The login user, the select product, the update card, each of them continuously go through this entire business process cycle that we discussed here. Now, this is a very significant change brought in by digital transformation of an enterprise. Otherwise, because people used to look at processes only at an end-to-end level, now you have to look at it in a discrete way. Companies that are able to achieve this transition of looking at each process and changing the process component in accordance with the needs of the market are said to have successfully transformed to digital enterprises. Otherwise, you have failed. Now, I'm coming to a very important concept, which again you must be clear, but you may not have thought about it in that way. But let's look at why is this important? Why are we talking about this? See, now a very important element brought in by digital transformation when you look at this process is that the product is no longer the creator of value. Earlier, if I set up a business, I was known by the product that I create. Okay, let's say I was making, let's say, light switches or light plugs or light bulbs or any product you can think. I was known by the product that I make. Now the product is no longer the creator of business value. Okay, the user interface, which is the visible part of the business process, okay, that is the creator of business value. That is why we see companies like Amazon do not own merchandise. Okay, because the merchandise is not the value that it creates. It only provides you an interface which makes it easy for you to buy merchandise. Similarly, Airbnb does not own hotel rooms, or for example, Uber does not have a taxi fleet. But all these guys, what they do is they provide you a interface. Okay, there are so many examples, and in fact, all these companies have are what is their core competence? What is it that these companies have? All that they have are smart processes front-ended by intuitive user interfaces. That's all. Smart processes which are running at the back end, which are front-ended by an intuitive user interface, which you and I like to use often. So that the process of, let's say, hailing a cab or buying a merchandise or booking a hotel room becomes also non pressurizing. That means it is not a problem that you have to go somewhere or fill a form or something like that. You don't have to do all those kind of things. Okay, so that is what basically these companies are. So it is important to remember that today the product is not the creator of value, the interface is the creator of value, and the process behind that interface is the creator of value. And that is what most of the successful digital companies have used to their advantage. Okay, so this shows how critical business processes are to the digital transformation. That's why I knew that this is not a technical subject, but I thought that if you're talking about digital transformation, we cannot have a discussion on it without talking about processes, because they are the most critical and visible part of the digital transformation. They are the lifeblood and survival tool, in fact, I can say, of the digital enterprise, which is the sort of outcome of digital transformation. So now, on the right side of the thing, I wanted you to do it as an exercise, just very simple exercise. Not now, but maybe you can do it, and I'll be happy if you send it back to me. So a business process must be continued. How do you know whether a process is good, bad, working, not working, people are happy with it, unhappy with it? So you do certain assessments. A business process must be continually assessed for its efficacy. Therefore, digital enterprises decide certain attributes that they use to measure process efficacy. Now, if you look at these attributes that I have written here, okay, in fact, I have time, 5-10 minutes. So, for example, convenience. As a user, would you consider this process contributes to making things convenient for you? Okay, how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being poor and 5 being very good? Okay, intuitiveness. Does the process anticipate needs and help make more informed decision? For example, if you order, let's say, any item, let's say a water glass from Amazon, it gives you a lot of choices. And even when you have made the choice itself, the customers who bought this also bought this. For example, they can buy coasters along with it or something else along with it. So it basically anticipates needs and try to help you make more informed decisions. Sometimes they also give you comparative pricing of different vendors for the same thing. That's especially useful when you're buying an expensive item, for example, a refrigerator or a smart TV or a smartphone or something like that. So those are basically, they help you make more informed decisions. So is the process intuitive? So a process has to be convenient, it has to be intuitive. Thirdly, flexibility. Is it easy to make changes or personalize the process? A process which was built for the American market, for example, will not work in Gurgaon. We all know that. Okay, or and vice versa. Similarly, even at a regional, sub-regional, even at individual level, is the process flexible enough to suit the specific requirements of the market or individual? Simplicity. Would your grandparents be comfortable using the process without assistance? Okay, so if the answer is yes, then yes, the process has simplicity. Today, most even people of very senior generation, your grandparents, for example, they can easily use the cab application, the Uber application to hail a cab. Okay, so that is what the simplicity means. I mean, it is easy to build processes, but if they are so complex that you have to be a BTech or a very experienced technical person to be able to use them, then they are useless. So simplicity is very important. Portability. How accommodative is the process in adapting to different environments? For example, today if I change my phone, will my process still work? Or if I instead of on premise, I move to a different cloud version, or will my process still work? If I change my OS from Android to iOS or Windows, will it still work? In future some new technology comes in, okay, will my process be affected by it? So that is known as portability, that it can be moved between devices, networks, platforms, future trends very easily. And finally, performance. How well does the process work under varying loads and traffic conditions? Okay, any process will work well during testing if you are not having any traffic or any users connected to it. But when there are load is high or load suddenly drops or traffic is high, how does the process handle that? That is known as its performance. That is part of its performance, how fast it is, all those things. So these are the 6 typical attributes. We can think of more attributes to define the success or efficacy of a process, but and these are very simple to rate. Now what I would like you to do is to take 5 processes. Let's take for example Uber, IRCTC, Make My Trip, and let's say Paytm, and fifth one maybe you can choose on your own, any process that you are fond of using or you have often used. Okay, and on a scale of 1 to 5, as we mentioned, rate these processes on these and let us see whether there is consistency in the answers or not across this entire team of students here. Okay, so I would like you to do that. That would also help you understand what a process is and how its efficacy is handled. So with that, we come to the last slide. That is not much to talk about here. What I would wanted to just a few messages I wanted to give about change management. So digital transformation is nothing but a change management program. We all know that, right? The word transformation itself means change at a large scale. That is what is transformation. So digital transformation is basically a change management program. So change management is therefore a part of the organization's overall business process management. It is also known as BPM cycle, which is used to build, as we see here on the diagram on the left, to build, automate, and optimize new processes. Okay, so that is what is. I'm not going into the details of BPM because it's a very involved and detailed study, and we don't have time to go into the. But basically, BPM is a process or a cycle, let's call it, which is used to build, automate, and change or optimize processes continually. It is a continuous cycle. That is, and every organization has to have a BPM in order to generate and run its processes. So when we're talking about the digital business process cycle, which we discussed a couple of slides back, okay, we saw that business processes constantly undergo change, and there were 2 reasons why. One was because of market research, and second was because of trend analysis. So they constantly undergo change because of these reasons. Hence, the process of managing change forms a very key component of digital process transformation. I hope you all understand and agree with that, that basically digital process management is nothing but managing change effectively and efficiently. Okay, the need for the change must be clearly, now I'm not going very much in detail in each of the boxes, but just to give you an overview, the need for the change must be clearly understood by both the business and technology teams, who must work together. It is not that business does it or technology does it. It is a question of, in a digital enterprise at least, working together at each stage of the process shown here to ensure that there are no delays, because as I said, delays could mean failure, or there are no cost leakages. It should not be a drain on the cost for the organization, or there are no performance failures in implementing the changes. These are very important. And that is why once a request for the change is finalized, it is essential to assess its impact, okay, on the time and schedule and complexity, etc. Okay, so that you are sure that the process is going to be effective and it is not going to result in a wastage. So generally the impact assessment is time bound. You cannot have an infinite amount of time given to impact assessment. You have to do it quickly in a day or two, otherwise you'll be out of the market. So once the change is approved from a budget standpoint or from a schedule standpoint, that is when do you want to, it is also known as speed to market, it has to be fast. And design perspective, the design also, the high level design which is created by the solution architects in the company, that has to be approved by the business, so that people understand that it does not introduce extra complexity in the system. Then it is implemented using agile methodology. I am not going into agile methodology, though I would love to at some stage, but right now we don't have time for it. But so any changes that the agile methodology also gives you the advantage, gives an advantage apart from other advantages, that any changes that consume too much time or cost can be deprioritized unless they are very important, and rescheduled if required, and other changes can be prioritized based on customer inputs. Okay, so that is the advantage of agile methodology, because it helps you come out with quicker solutions. So change management process is an example, as we can see here, of business and technology alignment in a digital enterprise to ensure timely delivery of new features. Okay, the implementation, as I said, is done using agile methodology, a disciplined approach. Basically, this cycle shows that the approach to managing change has to be disciplined and structured. It cannot be ad hoc. To managing change requires a constant emphasis on all these stages of the cycle shown here, and tracking the changes using advanced tools. So for each of these boxes, the 5 boxes that are shown in change management, it is important to manage each box separately, and there are tools available, and there are separate competencies and learning skills that are required at each stage. Okay, but together they constitute the change management process, which is absolutely at the heart of the digital enterprise process management, and through that at the heart of digital transformation. So as I said, always remember, the digital transformation of an enterprise is an exercise in change management at a large scale. So you cannot trivialize this process. Unfortunately, we do not have time to go into detailed depths of this process, but I just wanted you to understand, just the key takeaway is that change management process itself is a very structured process, which is broken up into discrete parts. Each part has to be managed separately using clear competencies and tools. Okay, so I hope in the end that we are all aligned in our understanding of the importance of processes in delivering successful digital transformation, and that's something that we should never lose sight of. So I think we are just in time, and that is all that I have. I wish there was some time for questions, but unfortunately, as in the past, I have not seen too many questions coming my way. But I would, as I say every time, I will say it again, that if you have questions, you can also email them to me. I'll be happy to answer. But I hope that this has made sense and you will find it relevant to you. Okay, so
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.